Hey guys, this is FightWrite, a writer's resource for writing fight scenes, action, and violence. I'm Carla, and today we have a striking tutorial just for writers. So, if you are about to write a fight scene where two characters go fisticuffs, this is the video for you. We're going to go over proper stance, technique, and then we're going to go over a few punches. Stance. Stance is the way your character's body is oriented for the punch. You need to know which of your character's hands is their dominant hand because it determines their stance. I am right hand dominant, so I'm going to stand with my feet shoulder width apart. I'm going to turn my toes 45 degrees away from my dominant hand. Okay? I'm going to have a nice soft bend in the knees. I'm going to pull my stomach in. It's going to be flexed, so if a strike does get through and it hits me in the stomach, I'm protected because my muscles are flexed. Okay, I'm going to bring the hands up to protect the jaw. You got to protect that jaw at all times. When the jaw is disturbed greatly, it can disrupt blood pressure. It can do a couple different things because it's so close to these arteries. And that makes the brain really unhappy. And so to maximize blood flow, the brain wants to be level with the heart, which generally means it's going to make the body go down to the floor. Unless your character can levitate, going to have to go down to the floor to maximize blood flow to the brain. We want to protect the jaw. We're going to have our chin down. We're going to bring our arms up. We're going to have our elbows down. The elbows need to be pointed straight down, so if a strike gets through to the side, all we have to do is bring our elbow down to our hip. Okay? So here is your fight stance. Your character can change stances, and there may be a time when they need to. If I am a right-handed fighter, but I've got blood flowing over my right eye, then I'm going to need to switch my stance and bring the right side of my body forward, which I absolutely can do. So here we are in our fight stance, and we're going to deliver a jab. A jab is a punch with a forward hand. A jab is a great hello punch. It is not a goodbye punch generally, but it's a great hello punch. Okay, punches start in the feet. Your character has to be able to move on their toes. And actually, I have a little too much grab on this mat. If you have too much grab, you're not going to get a good rotation. And if you try to rotate hard and the toes don't go with you, you can mess up your knees. So you want to have nice rotation in those toes, but you don't want too much. If the surface is slippery, it's not advisable that your character throw a punch. So if your character is on ice, punching is not the best thing for them. It's going to start in the feet. We're going to get a little bit of rotation. That rotation is going to give us torque in the hips. The torque in the hip is going to rotate the shoulder over, and that's going to throw out the shoulder and throw out the punch. That's why it said that you throw a punch, you don't punch a punch. Okay, so here we come with our jab. It's going to start with our feet. Rotate in torque in the hips, rotate the shoulder, the hand gets thrown out. If you have seen any of my other tutorials on punching, I have one, it's called Why Your Character Shouldn't Punch Hard to Punch Hard. You know that to get a forceful punch, it's not about punching hard. It's about getting as much of your mass behind your punch as possible and getting that punch delivered as quickly as possible, because mass times acceleration equals force. So that's what this proper technique all about. This proper technique is about getting as much of the body's mass behind a punch as possible and delivering it as quickly as possible. Okay, so here's our jab. That's our hello punch. It sets us up for our cross. That's going to be our punch with our dominant hand, which is back. And it's back because we're going to be able to get more rotation, more torque, and we're going to get more of our mass behind it. That's why the dominant hand is back. This is your goodbye. This is your hello. This is your goodbye. We've got a jab. We've got a cross. Now we've got a hook. A hook is a punch that is delivered with an arm that is shaped like a hook. Hooks can be delivered low. They can be delivered high. Remember though, if you just punch somebody right here in the ribs protect the organs pretty well. So it's better to get it a little bit on the low side or get it up to the face. However, on a note about ribs, body shots are fantastic for wearing an opponent down. You will see fighters deliver tons of punches to the midsection. They're trying to make their opponent flex and defend themselves, because the more they flex, it's going to tire them out. It's going to cause them to alter their breathing even more. So if you want your character to just wear the other one down, they need to deliver a ton of body strikes. But you got to remember, The more strikes your character throws, the more they're wearing themselves out at the same time. Do not confuse a hook with a haymaker. In movies, you will see the haymaker punch, person steps back and they draw their punch back and then they come forward. Haymakers are very effective, don't get me wrong, but they're not efficient for a couple reasons. One, there's not really any rotation in the haymaker. And as we've seen, you're not going to get as much of your body mass behind it. A haymaker also telegraphs or announces itself. That's a lot of wasted motion. And fighting, just like writing, you want maximum efficiency, minimal effort. So just like with writing, we want to deliver the greatest message we can with the least amount of words possible. It's the same thing with punches. I want to give that opponent the biggest message I can with the least amount of effort behind it. Uppercuts. Uppercuts are also made with a hooked arm, but they are delivered straight up underneath the chin, and hopefully they land underneath the chin, and it's great because it will make an opponent's head go back, and where the head goes, the body follows. You hear the cicada? I love cicadas. When the head is thrown back, hopefully it will cause the opponent to step back. If nothing else, it opens the throat and it opens the midsection, which leaves the opponent much more vulnerable. The uppercut is a little different than the other punches in that it doesn't rely on torque. So you're in the same stance as usual. Your stance for all the punches will be exactly the same for a couple reasons. One, we've seen that it's most efficient to get mass behind the punch. Also, you don't want to announce what punch is coming. If all of your punches have a different stance, then your opponent is going to know what's coming, and you don't want to do that. Same stance as normal. You're going to dip and you're going to come up. Power's going to come with the legs. You notice I dip my head. That is because I want to keep my jaw protected. The thing about any type of attack at all, this is a life lesson, people. Whenever you attack someone, you are leaving yourself vulnerable. When I punch, look at how much of my body I'm leaving open. You cannot strike without making yourself vulnerable, and that can be a really great plot twist for you. The thing about uppercuts, you have to be much closer to your opponent. Whereas I can deliver a jab from out here, I've got to be really close to my opponent to deliver this is actually an up jab. If it's with the front hand, up jab, uppercut, don't worry about it. So this is great for when you are in close quarters, or if you're in a clinch, if you're holding on to each other. It's great to get right up underneath that chin. You can make those teeth click together, so that's another little description you can add in, the sound of the teeth clicking in together, and then hopefully bring that character's body back away from you. While we are in fighting closer to our opponent with an uppercut, we can throw an elbow. Elbows. Elbows are satisfying strikes. The thing about an elbow is just like with an uppercut, you got to be close to your opponent. But the elbow is an incredibly sturdy bone. Bones of the hands are actually kind of fragile. Underneath a boxer's gloves, those gloves are to protect the person's hand more than they are the opponent's face, let me assure you. Underneath those gloves is tons of wrap, which pulls the bones of the hands together so that the force is distributed evenly over the bones and not taken by just a few, because you run the risk of what's called a boxer's break, and that will absolutely take a fighter out of a fight. So, an elbow, you're probably not going to break on somebody. You're going to start just like you're delivering a punch. You have to be much closer, and it's going to be the same technique, right? Elbows, wonderful, and they can be delivered at all different angles. They can be delivered straight up. It's called a rhino elbow. While we're on the subject of fragile bones of the hand, let's talk about a backhand. You see people backhanded, I call it the telenovela punch. That's not a super advisable strike because, again, the bones of the hands are fragile. If your character is going to do any type of back fist, I suggest that they deliver it with, I call this bucket hand, like you're holding a bucket, with the side of the hand right here. You cannot deliver a backhand from straight on, okay? It just doesn't work because you're going to have to open yourself up. If I'm delivering a backhand from straight on, look at how much of my body I've given you. It's better to deliver a backhand when you're already turned away from your opponent. So let's say that my opponent has thrown a punch and it goes over my left shoulder, I evade, and when I come back up, that is when I can deliver my back fist. The last punch we're going to go over is a fun punch. It's not advisable. I call it the mullet of the punches because it's maybe not the best idea, but it is super fun. And that is Superman punch. A Superman punch is a cross punch delivered with a leap. And the great thing about a Superman punch, other than the fact that it's just cool looking, is you can really cover some distance with it. However, to cover that distance, you have to leap. And whenever you take your feet off the ground, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. Much less the fact that you're leaping off of one foot and you're landing on one foot. But again, it can cover the distance. You don't want to open a fight with a Superman punch. But if the opponent is worn down and the opponent is getting slower, then that might be a good time to do a Superman punch. You take off on that front leg and then you deliver across. I'm going to do a short Superman just to show you what I'm talking about. I can deliver a Superman punch from a good 4 feet away, and I'm only 5 feet tall, so a much taller character can really cover the distance with it. Okay, I'm going to step off camera and do a Superman punch. So see, a Superman punch is all kinds of fun, but it's not necessarily the smartest choice. Like a mullet, like I had in 6th grade. What have we gone over today? We've gone over proper stance. We've talked a little bit about the physics of punches so that you understand why the body is oriented the way it is. We have gone over the technique. We have gone over a couple different punches. So now you have even more tools in your toolbox for when you write that fight scene. Guys, if you do not have my book, FightWrite, How to Write Believable Fight Scenes with Writer's Digest / Penguin, Random House, give it a look. Everything that I've taught you today on this video is in the book. Also, while you're here watching the video, subscribe, please, and check out my blog, FightWrite, FightWrite.net. You can also find me on Twitter at Carla Hoch, CarlaHoch. Send me questions anytime on Twitter, and I'll do my best to answer them. And that is it for today on FightWrite on YouTube. Until the next episode, get blood on your pages.